but my primary focus is helping them understand how do they interact with their body? What is their relationship with food? How do they react to stress? How do they even know that they're stressed? What activities makes their body alive? Because that is different for everybody. You don't have to go to the gym. If gym is not your thing, then how can you make physical activity enjoyable for you?
Welcome to Roots of Healing, the podcast where we uncover the stories, insights, and visionary ideas shaping the future of lifestyle and integrative medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Siri Chand Khalsa, a physician and advocate for holistic healing and embodied living. Before we begin, please note that this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not constitute medical advice. Please consult your healthcare provider for personal medical concerns. Each week, I have the privilege of sitting down with trailblazers and thought leaders who are reimagining what it means to heal, mind, body, and spirit. Together, we'll explore their journeys, innovative approaches, and the deeper roots of healing that inspire us all. This week, we have Dr. Janeeka, or Dr. J. Benoit. She helps high-achieving women who feel frustrated by their body finally understand what it needs. She is a board-certified internal medicine and sports medicine physician and the founder of InVessel Health and Wellness. Her mission became personal when she gained 18 pounds despite staying active and seeing her cholesterol rise for the first time. She wasn't lacking discipline. Her metabolism needed a different strategy. Now Dr. J helps driven women stop fighting their bodies and start working with their metabolism. Through mindset, science, and lifestyle medicine, she helps women build sustainable energy, metabolic health, and strength that support their purpose and legacy. What a delight, Dr. J, to welcome you to the podcast. And I want to start with a phrase that you shared that kind of stopped me in my tracks. You said, our metabolism does not respond to force, it responds to truth. Wow, that really took me aback. Could you take us into how you arrived to that conceptually and what it means to you?
Yes. So, like me and many other women like me who are driven and very motivated, we often think that everything that we do in life has to be by the very nature of how we have arrived to where we've gotten to. And so, for example, if you are a physician, you have worked very hard to get into medical school and you worked hard to get into residency and fellowship. And we start to adopt that personality in other areas of our lives. And especially when it comes to our health, we think that sometimes it's about doing more, like exercising more. Let me see if I can restrict my meals more. But then it really becomes a disservice to us because we lose the connection that we have with our bodies. And so many a times we're very, cerebral. We'll think, okay, let me do this. This is a strategy. And if I map it out just right, I'll get there. But sometimes that doesn't really work with our health. And we just need to take just a couple of steps back so we can really understand what our body is trying to communicate with us and then how we can best support our body so that we can do the things that we enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's so incredible. And on the podcast, we always sort of love understanding the origin story. So walk us through a little bit about, this is such an innovative insight. And tell us a little bit about your educational journey. So you're an internist with sports medicine, which in and of itself is really unique. So tell us, how did that come about? And if you will, I always love hearing someone's original origin story. Like, when was the moment you said, I think I want to be a doctor? It may have been a gradual, but if there's a moment where it kind of woke up for you, we always love hearing about that.
Yes. So my dad is a doctor and I grew up underneath his wing, right? And so I remember, and he also had his own practice. So I would walk into his practice and I would make believe it's mine. It felt like mine too. I would just, I would go to his front desk. I'm like, hey, I want to speak to my daddy. Is my daddy here? And the secretary would open the door for me. And I knew that if the doors were closed, then he was in a room with the patient. And then so I'd be in another patient room and then I would scare him once he came out of the room with the patient. And I used to do rounds with my dad in the hospital. And so I knew everybody at the nursing station. And so it just kind of became a part of my life. I love the relationships that he developed that with his patients. They were just very genuine, very pure. And I saw from a young age how much trust that his patients instilled in him, because, he had their best interests in heart and they knew that. And so that was just beautiful to see as a young girl growing up. And so it kind of became inevitable for me because my life grew up around that. And it took me a while to get into medical school. I was not the best test taker. So it took me 3 years to get into medical school and to really overcome those MCATs. But eventually I got accepted into a DO school, the founding DO school, AT Still University in Kirksville, Missouri. And there, learning osteopathic medicine, I really enjoyed the osteopathic manipulative treatments, the OMT, which is an additional course that we have in DO school. And so we learned a lot about the musculoskeletal system. We learned how the body can heal itself. We learned how to palpate the body and look for um, structural misalignment that could indicate some type of pathophysiologic process going on. And so I really enjoyed that. And there, I joined the sports medicine club. I was on the board of the sports medicine club because it was just another way that I can incorporate that musculoskeletal training. And then I graduated from medical school. I went into residency. I decided to go internal medicine residency because, internists, we love the details. We love knowing the ins, the outs. And so I did that, but I knew being in internal medicine was just not enough. And so I decided to also go into sports medicine fellowship because of the training that I had as a DO, right? I really love the musculoskeletal system. And that is why I went into sports medicine. But also at the same time, I was also very physically active. I was running. I was a huge, huge runner. I ran the New York City Marathon. So it was just very aligned with my life and what I believed. And I really, coming from a DO school, I really wanted to um teach people how to find health. In medical school, yes, we are diagnosing and we are finding disease, but in osteopathic medical school, I really learned how do we find health, right? And so that is what I wanted to incorporate into being an internist and sports medicine because I understand the insides of you, but then I also understand how you function and move. And together, that is how we can really get you to a place of, optimal health. And so that is my story of how I started.
Wow, like so much we could spend a whole hour just on everything you just talked about. There's so many things I want to talk to you about. But I want to just acknowledge for our listeners that the DO curriculum that includes the OMT is actually really incredible. And for people that aren't as familiar with it, we'll leave a link in the show notes for you to learn more about OMT. Personally, on a very personal level, OMT, I developed occipital neuralgia. And for those of you that don't know, it's so painful. It's been part of my long COVID journey. And I spent better part of the last 6 years working with various osteopaths to help manage some of the structural issues that were causing just continued feedback, painful, very painful. Pray you never have occipital neuralgia, folks. It is exquisitely painful. And the osteopaths are really the only people, and it gave this beautiful pathway of deeper understanding, more insight into structurally how I hold myself, what I'm carrying, physically, metaphorically. It also gave this wonderful sort of deep relaxation that having been a very classic type A person and even though I have such a robust relationship to integrative and lifestyle principles, I'm a type A gal. It just is in my bones, literally. And so that healing arc that's been part of my long COVID and that's incorporated I seek them out wherever I go, people that do the OMT. And I just want to really highlight what a tremendous gift it is for people that have anything from a functional injury from training to a chronic pain syndrome and everything in between. There's so much space within the osteopathic treatment paradigms. And to segue, I think they really give a very holistic understanding of how the body, including the myofascial system, is integrated. It's not these discrete systems. And so tell me a little bit about what woke up for you as you deepened into that combination of exercise physiology and OMT. You must have started to realize there's a niche here that no one is meeting, or very few people are meeting, and pulling in then some of the lifestyle principles. It must have been like a flower blooming. I'm almost imagining like something really beautiful began take to come to life inside of you.
Yes, absolutely. And so, then inserts my own journey. And so at this point, I'm in my mid-30s and, my body starts to change, right? I had gained 18 pounds. It was the first time I saw my LDL cholesterol increase. And at the same time, I was working for a weight loss company and I'm helping other, people with their own journey while I'm going through mine. And this company was, primarily focused on GLP-1s, right? And a part of me got a little frustrated because it seemed like the focus was primarily on the medication, but I wanted to go deeper into how to augment the outcome with the medication with also intensive lifestyle modifications. Because I would have a woman come to me, for example, they would say, okay, well, the medication's not working as well, but she's caring for her mother, her father, and she has so many demands on her. And so, of course, the stress is also affecting, her weight and her quality of life, right? And so I wanted to create space for that because there is also a huge psychological component to it. Yes, there are cardiometabolic effects as well, but there is a huge psychological component that cannot be dismissed. I wanted to get deeper on the nutrition. I wanted to get deeper on the behavioral and psychological components that, affect us, especially during those years of perimenopause and menopause. Like I wanted to go deeper into that and I did. And so from that, I was able, through my own journey and from being motivated to help patients in a different way that is more comprehensive, that led me to find my own virtual practice, InVessel Health and Wellness. And so with my practice, it is, very much comprehensive. It's not, the medications are more or we are minimizing lifestyle, but my primary focus is to help understand where they are, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to meet patients where they are. And I think a lot of the patients that gravitate toward me, they gravitate toward me because I do place a lot of emphasis on lifestyle, on nutrition, on physical activity, on the behavioral modifications, right? And if a patient were to need an additional tool, well, we have this robust, therapy that we have been working on that's going to help minimize the dose that you need and therefore minimize the side effects. And it's going to improve your experience on a GLP-1 medication. But my primary focus is, helping them understand how to, how do they interact with their body? What is their relationship with food? How do they react to stress? How do they even know that they're stressed? Right? What activities makes their body alive, right? Because that is different for everybody. You don't have to go to the gym. Like if gym is not your thing, then how can you make physical activity enjoyable for you? And unfortunately, during in the weight loss company that I work for, and even in just a traditional setting, there was not enough time to get into all of that information. And so I knew that I had to create something of my own that created the time to talk about these things that really, really affect our health, but still making it comprehensive enough where we're focusing on this piece, the lifestyle behavioral, but also we're keeping in mind the cardiometabolic effects as well. And so that is how everything came to be.
Oh my gosh. I love that personal discovery. Actually, I think it takes more courage than you make it seem easy, but like it's hard to step out of the classic primary care model in a basic way. I think actually I'll even lean towards the older clinicians who may be listening in their late 40s, early 50s who are coming to these same conclusions after 20 years in primary care. For the record, I love what you're creating and I think it's really that ought to be the primary care model, but we both know it's not. In fact, the idea that it could be in our lifetime is probably unlikely in the sense that the way that medicine is structured now, these deepening of relationships, the quality of time that really requires for that in an insurance-based model is pretty unlikely, but people innovate and they may find paths through. But tell us a little bit about that moment when you said, I'm just going to create it myself. Like, how did you go about doing that?
Well, I do everything scared. So
I love it.
it was
That's the
fear.
word.
There was a whole lot of fear, doing, just stepping out and saying, okay, I'm going to do something that is different, based on the traditional way that I have been trained. And so, yes, it was very scary just stepping out, and it's still scary. Like, I'm not like, perfect. But I think what's more important is making sure that you share your voice and your mission, because I know that there are women who are looking for a doctor like me, right? And so if I stay within a zone of comfort, then I'm not going to be able to help the women who are looking for a different way. And so I realize that that woman is more important than my comfort. And that is really what motivates me, because, you don't get into medicine because you want to make money. Like, it just, no, we really have a strong desire to help, to heal, and to be that voice that helps to validate a woman's concerns about her body, that helps to reassure her, that helps to give her answers, right? When she may have been dismissed in a traditional model. And so I realized that, in becoming a physician, there is this innate gift that I have been given that allows me to be patient, that allows me to understand, that allows me to meet my patients where they are, that allows them to feel comfortable, that allows them to feel seen, that allows them to be heard. And that is extremely valuable. And so if I stay quiet and I allow my fears to overcome me, then I'm not going to be able to help and serve the women who need my help. And in terms of support, of course, I had to get a lot of support. And so just to mention a few, Dr. Una, she has been very monumental in my career as a physician. I actually started working with her as a fellow, so very, very, very early. And she has um, really helped me just to step out on faith and to trust that what I have been given is needed, and it is a gift to patients. And so I really, really have her to thank. Dr. Sunny Smith, she has mentored me before. I have her to thank. Also, Dr. Linda Street, she was my negotiation coach as when I was a first time looking for my big attending job. She helped me learn how to negotiate. And, with negotiation, that gives you that certain level of audacity to just, ask for, what you believe is your value. And so with all these women, they have helped develop an audacity in me to be able to step out and really let my light shine. And the people who see my light and the people are the people, they're essentially my people. They are on the same, frequency as I am. They understand what I'm saying, and what I'm saying is, touching their hearts. And so I really have them to thank. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for being in connection with them, because if I had not had that mentorship, I don't know where I would be. But I'm really, really grateful for having mentors in my life to help mold me, because they're not only just helping me, but they're also helping all the patients that I'm helping as well. So the
Right.
impact goes far and wide.
Yeah. It's such an amplifying energy in a way. And it really is. I am loving the innovation that's come through those clinicians that you shared. And I know I'm similar age as them, and we didn't have that mentoring. And so there's this sort of desire to have the younger clinicians feel empowered to really step into these innovative models, to feel successful in them, to see that work impact people in ways that if we just stay stuck in these models, and it's not just that healing isn't happening, it's our own inner destruction that's happening in this parallel way with the moral injury and, that quality of this is not the career I wanted it to be. This is not how I want to practice medicine. And it's an investment to work in these settings where you get that mentorship. But my goodness, when you stay stuck in those other roles for a decade or 2 decades, the impact it has on your health can be pretty significant on your spirit, on your expression of your light. I love the terminology you're using. And so bravo to you for getting that support and for really sharing it. So, as it stands now, is it a consultative model or is it fully primary care? I'm just curious, like just conceptually.
Yes. So with the model, so it is not primary care. So specifically, I'm helping women with that stubborn weight during perimenopause and menopause. And it is a membership model that I have. And so at a minimum, patients can be a member for 6 months. And then if they want to continue, and typically, they will continue because it takes
Yeah,
time. It
it
takes time.
does.
um, then it'll be an ongoing membership from there. And so that is how I have structured it. Um, and the first appointment visit is really just getting into their history. It's just finding out what worked, what hasn't worked. Even prior to having that conversation, I have a very in-depth intake form that I am able to get a lot of information from. And then that first appointment, I am just clarifying what I've seen on the form. And then I'm also figuring out, okay, what labs would I order for you, given what you have told me so far. And from there, I do a baseline body composition testing. So they are free to purchase a body composition scan if they so choose to. If not, then there are other ways of determining, measures of success, as you can say. We can do objective measurements, for example, waist circumference, or, more subjective measurements like energy and strength, and mental clarity. And so they have the option of choosing to purchase a body composition scan. And I use that as a baseline assessment. And so I'm able to put everything together with what they told me in their history, the lab interpretation, and their body composition. And from there, we start with a nutrition audit. So I am evaluating their nutrition for a week, and I'm making recommendations on their nutrition based on everything, the history, the labs, the body composition. And then we are making changes from there. We're also considering lifestyle, stress, emotional dysregulation. That's part of it as well. And so that is way I'm able to create a very robust, intensive behavioral and lifestyle plan for them as they go on this journey. And, the patients, they're very appreciative of it because they get to learn more about their body. Right. They get to learn because a lot of them, they are busy and sometimes they don't have the time and space to like really pay attention. Like, oh, let me focus on these foods more, like more fiber here. And because that's going to, also help me with my cholesterol and in my the way that my sugar is balanced. And so it's introducing them to certain foods, functional foods, that's going to help them do what they need to do within their careers and just within their life so that they can develop sustainable health and sustainable habits over time.
Well, I want to pause for a second because I know there's going to be people listening. We have so much more to talk about. What is your how if someone's listening and they're like, "Yes, that's me. I want to work with you." Your website is InVessel, right?
Yes, www.invesselhealth.com.
Okay, so I would normally do that at the end, and of course, I have a disclaimer at the beginning that they work with you. That's independent from me, but I can feel people in the audience saying, where is that information? Because you're speaking my language. And though we're just meeting for the first time on this call, many of the people that I interact with are in that midlife slug. Like, oh my goodness, what is happening to my body? What's happening to my sense of purpose? Where's my value that I'm living into in this time? And it sounds like my experience and with this particular group is there's the changing body. There's an internal sense of excellence, even though the body is changing.
Yes.
We reached a certain level of mastery in our career, whatever that may have been. We have aging parents. Many people have young kids or just about to empty nest in that same time zone. There's this incredible stretch that's happening that's actually very stressful. And I love how focused you are in understanding who is this person in front of me. And I
Absolutely.
don't want to just put a cookie cutter, here's your GLP-1, see you in a month, let me know how it goes.
Hmm.
It's like, hey, here's this whole person and how the body has changed and shifted through this passage of life is a reflection of many variables
Hmm.
that the GLP-1 isn't the only means to meet that. And we do certainly want women to not move to the latter portion of their life with hypertension and, elevated A1C and higher risk factors for cancer and cardiovascular disease, which I think your model is brilliantly meeting them. I would say mind, body, and spirit, which I think that carries, the intention that you're bringing into it of understanding where are all the places where stress lives, where are all the places where change can live, where can we map this out, where can we design a life that gives you the results you're really looking for. And I have to again acknowledge that depth of innovation and also creating a practice is two very large bites. So I really commend you. And I know the support and the mentorship has helped, but you've done the daily showing up with the website, the marketing, the getting the licenses, while at the same time creating this incredibly innovative model and how care is delivered. As a small aside, are you mentoring other people who might want to do the same? Or is that you're just casually probably helping people, but you don't have a formal mentorship at this point, do you?
Yes. No, I don't have a formal mentorship just yet. Um, I'm still, still early within my business, so I'm not sure if I'm the mentor yet. I learn every single day within my business. I learn how to communicate my voice better, what is resonating with people who are seeing my social media posts. And so I am still learning myself. I'm very in the early phases of the journey, but it is a beautiful journey nonetheless.
I can't. I just feel the excitement and enthusiasm, which is so refreshing. Tell me a little bit about if you have this sort of high achieving woman who comes to you exhausted, frustrated, convinced she just needs to try harder. Tell us a little bit about how you meet her in that moment.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would, tell her to just locate herself. And what that means is, what are the feelings that she's experiencing? I frequently will bring out a feelings wheel on my
Feelings real.
appointments because it gets, they just feel all this stuff, but it's not identified. And so I will bring out a feelings wheel and I tell them, okay, like, where do you feel? Like, and they would point to their feeling. And then I would ask them, okay, well, what type of thought is promoting this type of feeling? Right. And then so we get into thought practice. Okay, like, what am I thinking right now? And so it could be that, oh, I don't want to, end up sick like my mother. And this is why I'm so frustrated because I don't want to be by my mother. And she, she's very ill and she is not able to be independent. And I'm scared of becoming like her. And so we get into those thoughts and then with identifying the thought, most of the time showing them how that thought is fake. It's not true. Right. And just showing them, let's build our evidence. So can we build the evidence of why that thought is not true? And so they start realizing themselves like, oh, well, I do exercise every day and I am mindful of what I eat. Even though it is hard for me to and get this stubborn weight gain off, but I am doing my best. And so it's helping to identify where they are because sometimes we get so busy, we're not able to locate ourselves. We just feel like tense, but we don't understand where that tension is coming from. So giving words to where they are is really monumental because it helps them gain clarity. Like, okay, like the thought that I was thinking is actually untrue. And I am actually doing my best. I just need a little bit more help. And then that is when I come in. It's like, okay, now that we're here, what is your goal? What is your true goal? And so I think it's very important to understand where they are because it's not just like, okay, let me check your labs and make sure that you don't have like all these diseases, but it's a combination. It's comprehensive. It's understanding, okay, where they are right now, okay, and then how can we optimize their health?
It's really leaning into the strengths of probably what they're doing. And slowly, as those strengths become more felt, then over time, they have that opportunity to really make some probably initially very micro adjustments that actually have very significant long term impact. What is what is your hope when someone comes to you after that first visit that they leave that visit after they've had this probably amazing intake? They've been seen, they've been heard, maybe for the first time for some of them. I'd be curious what you hope that they take from that first visit, and also what have people reflected back to you from that first visit?
Yes, my hope is that they feel validated, that what they are feeling is certainly true, in regards to their experiences with their body. Some things that I have gotten within my first visit is because like I am breaking things down, they're like, oh my goodness, like I never thought of that way before. And so case in point, I had a patient, she filled out my intake form and I do screen for eating disorders. And so um, she checked every box on the binge eating disorder, the binge eating disorder on the form. Um, so she currently did not have a binge eating disorder, but the question was, have you had these symptoms in the past? And so when I had the first appointment, I said, "Do you know that you have had binge eating disorder?" And she was like, "No, like no one ever diagnosed me." And so, but it wasn't even just diagnosed her, we didn't ask. Eh, We didn't ask. So if we do not ask, then it is hard to get the diagnosis of binge eating disorder. And so with her, a lot of it is unpacking some of the food trauma that had in the past. So even though currently she does not have that, but she's working with her therapist and I'm working alongside with her, from the behavioral aspect of it, lifestyle aspect of it. And at the same time, she's working with her therapist to really just unpack this food trauma that she's had that has really been impacting her experience with her and her body. And so it's things like that. The fact that I was able to identify it and then say, hey, this needs to be unpacked with your therapist. That was also very um it was very insightful to her because she really didn't think much of it, right? Because it was just like, oh yeah, this was a thing in the past. That was like my old life. But I'm like, no, but you're still holding on to it. It's you're still holding on to it, and it still needs to be unpacked. And just having the history, like I've, heard um some ways that she was still holding on to this trauma. And so I was like, but you're still holding on to it. So this needs to be unpacked with your therapist. Of course, I'm going to still work with you, but it's going to be um you're working with me as your physician, and then you're also working with your therapist to unpack the psychological connection that you have built within your body from this previous diagnosis. So these are the things that we get to in the first visit.
Like,
And so she had no idea that she was carrying this. But, because I have such a thorough intake form and I ask clarifying questions, I'm able to get to the heart of the
mm,
matter. Like, this is the
and quickly.
issue. This is impacting your ability to really connect with your body and to find ways to make food more enjoyable for you.
Mm. I love that reflection. I appreciate you sharing that because even as people are listening, they're probably doing, the clinicians that are listening are probably doing their own inventory. Like, when was the last time I asked someone or screened someone for an eating disorder? And some sadly may have a moment of pause and say, I've never even looked for that. So again, I love the innovation that you've brought just into your intake form that's already giving people a space of reflection. Wow, I have never had an intake form that really explored all these dimensions of why I might be gaining weight that I can't lose. And so many women have probably come to you. They've done intermittent fasting, they've done boot camps, they've done elimination diets, they've probably done GLP ones. What do you think? We love this, and I love this as part of your model. What do you think the body is trying to tell them by the time they get to you? Like, they haven't lost the weight, they've done all these things. What is the intelligence of the body that's still holding the weight, um, for better or for worse? By the time they get to you, do you have a way you kind of explore that with people?
Yes. So the first thing is, understanding their lifestyle. Like, what is happening on a day to day. And with understanding their lifestyle, I can see the ways where their body's not getting the support that it needs. So, for example, a lot of the women that I work with, they're very busy. And so they may skip breakfast or they may just go throughout the whole day without eating just because they're so busy. And it's not until the end of the day where they are ravenous and their stomach is like, I need food. They're at that point they're eating out of survival. And so out of survival and convenience. So at that point it's just like, I'm so hungry, I need a hyper palatable food so that I can stay alive. And I tell my patients all the time, I was like, we don't have to eat out of survival, we can eat for nourishment. What are the ways that you can nourish yourself throughout the day so that you can get through your busy work day, so that you don't have to wait until the end of the day to eat out of survival? What foods do you like to eat? Because that's another thing. I do not give cookie cutter plans. I figure out what you already enjoy, and then I help edify it by making it more functional, like adding more functional foods like fiber to that. And if there is for example, a person with insulin resistance, we know that even just walking 10 minutes after a meal can decrease that glucose insulin spike. And so especially if there's a woman who enjoys to walk, I'm like, is there a way that you could get just a 5 to 10 minute walk at least 15 minutes after a meal to help decrease that insulin spike. And so those are some of the ways I meet them where they are. I understand their life. I have to understand their life because it has to fit. I can't just tell them, okay, do this and that and this. If I don't understand their life and how making these changes are going to fit in their life already, that's unfair. And then that, is a recipe for disaster because they're eventually going to get overwhelmed that they can't do all the things that I'm recommending. And then they're eventually going to quit. And so, in short, I try to understand their lifestyle. What foods do they enjoy? How do they like to move? And I help them figure out, okay, how can we help optimize all of this to get you to a place where your body feels best supported? And then they see the difference, right?
Yeah.
It was so interesting. I had a woman in my practice. It was so interesting. She said that she came to me because she actually wanted to gain muscle. But just speaking to on the consultation call, I knew that it was nothing about gaining muscle. And then when I looked at her body composition scan, she actually had adequate muscle. And really, for her, it was about recovery because she was actually working out a lot. She had adequate amounts of muscle and she couldn't sleep. And so we worked on that. We worked on, okay, let's cut down your workouts one day. And she was willing to trust the process. I'm so grateful that she was able to do that. And then we worked on, thought patterns, like what are the thoughts that are keeping her up at night? And so as we worked on those together, she was able to then have be able to maintain her sleep. She was able to have more energy during her workouts, and she was able to not be so stuck on getting all the metrics, like, to make sure that she's walking a specific amount of steps a day, or she's pushing as hard as she goes. She learned to really just enjoy moving. She really learned how to just enjoy exercising because she was so focused on like the numbers, the numerical results, that it was hard for her to really enjoy her moving her body and challenging her body in different ways.
Mm,
And so, paired with nutrition, paired with sleep, she was able to develop more energy and she was able to find a new version of herself that did not have to stay stuck on, oh, it has to be this way all the time. But I can also find joy in how I interact with my body and how I interact with my health. And so that way she was able to support herself and be able to use joy as her new standard instead of focus on the numbers and what they mean about who she is.
mm. Wow, that's an incredible story. I think that I mean, just have to come back again and again to this concepts that are held in the coaching framework, that are held in your background of all your training. You're bringing this incredible collection of knowledge and intentionality into these visits. And I think probably your clients are so grateful. I mean, you must be getting feedback where people are just saying, this is the change that I've really wanted to see. And one of the things that I'd be curious about your opinion is that oftentimes people come in and they say, well, I want to lose weight. But isn't there usually something else that's after that? I want to lose weight so that I X. What do you find that a lot of women are actually really looking for, if the weight or the lack of tone or the physiologic pieces of this and that. What do you think a lot of them are really looking for if they
Yeah, and I
wanna.
always ask that. I ask them, "What is your why?" And sometimes I have to, like, ask again because so I can get to the roots, because right, that is, that's a surface level answer, like, "I want to lose weight," and so I really ask their why, and I think a lot of them is to, be able to have energy, to be able to have something that they can sustain, to be able to feel strong, to be able to to maintain the purpose in what they do, without having, low energy from, not getting proper nourishment or enough movement in. And that is really what they want. They want energy, they want vitality, and that is really, really what they want. They want vitality and they want to learn how to make it sustainable.
Yeah, it's so valuable. It's such a foundational skill to any stage in life. Another trend I'm curious, and you sort of alluded to this with your story in the exercise piece, really high achieving women or women that are very sort of type A or highly motivated can be really ridiculously bad at rest and recovery. And I'm curious how you help women understand or share with me what you think about rest and recovery, and then how do you really bring that into the model that you've created?
Yes. And so, I take a look back and I still have to acknowledge that, their high achievement has helped them. So I acknowledge, I'm like, okay, well, your ability to have these high standards have helped you. Um, However, in this aspect of rest and recovery, it is doing more of a disservice to you. And so I'm just, honest from the gate. And I figure out, okay, well, how would you like to rest? How would you like to recover? Because also, I don't think they've ever given themselves a chance to even think about what that would look like for them. Because when you get so accustomed to functioning in a specific way, that becomes the default. It gets challenging to understand how to function any different. And I ask them, what does that look like for you? What would you like to do? And so it's allowing them to create that version of rest and recovery that they would like to have, that they never even thought about before. They may not even thought that they were worthy of it. And so sometimes it becomes a conversation of, you are worthy of rest and recovery. And what is making you to believe that you do not deserve this? And so sometimes it starts there. It's just showing them that, yes, you are worthy of having rest and recovery. And we can together create what that looks like for you so that you can be best supported in your career, in your family, in just your overall life. And that really, opens up their minds, and they're able to use this creativity in a way that they've never had. Because when you are a high achieving person, you know the steps and that has gotten you to where you are, and there is less creativity in creating another version of you. And so it's helping them use your creativity to think about, okay, well, what does it look like for you? How would you like to feel? What would your environment look like? Who would be around you? And it's really about like helping them paint that picture, because they have never painted that picture before.
That's incredible. I imagine from time to time, as they deepen in some awareness around that, there's some grief that comes up where they realize, wow, I had this identity I built, and maybe I have to let this identity go. And, and I'm sure that coaching is really useful to help them sit with the feelings of a little bit of maybe even shame or despair or hopelessness, and sort of saying, wow, this is the way I've built myself, but it's not fully sustaining me to this next chapter that as my body goes through changes. There's a interesting concept. I forget the professor, but the notion is fluid intelligence versus crystallized intelligence. And there is a quality of just abject physiologic changes that come through the midlife. They don't mean you have to slow down or do less, but the body definitely goes through very particular series of changes. And just being someone who's moving through that myself, I've noticed that we do sometimes have to grieve an identity that is no longer one that serves us. And
Absolutely.
um, that that's probably been one of the harder things I've done, is sort of just acknowledging in a really basic way that youthfulness is pretty amazing. Like, you miss that. Like, you miss some of those pieces that the body has been through so much, but we also cherish the vessel that's carried us through whatever the process and journey that our life journey has been. And
Mhm.
I'm curious, do you notice that in some of your interactions?
Yes, I certainly see it, and I think how it shows up in the way that I work with women is they, they start to develop a new relationship with themselves, right? Because like I said, they've come into this working relationship with me with their former self, but through our work together, we discover a new relationship with themselves. And so that could be a new relationship with food. Because for example, I had a woman in my practice, and with our work together, she really never realized that she had a relationship with food. It was only until like we started working together, she recognized, oh, I did have a relationship with food, and it was one of reactivity. I would eat just anything when I was hungry versus now, I'm more intentional, I'm more planned because I want to make sure that I'm getting proper nourishment. And so I think the way that it shows up in my practice, it's very gradual. It's a gradual change that occurs. It's like, oh, I never thought of that before. Or it would be like, oh, I didn't think like I would be this person like while I'm working with you, right? And so, it is a gradual change that they go through, and it's so interesting. The thing that they want, that they come to me with, right? They'll be like, I like what you said earlier. I want to lose weight. It becomes so much bigger than that, right? Because case in point, I told you there was the woman who changed her relationship with food, but she initially came to me saying, I want to lose weight, but she didn't understand that she was going to learn how to develop a new relationship with food.
Mm.
And so it became so much bigger than just losing weight, but it was about, okay, improving my relationship with food and understand that it actually exists and how I am improving that relationship. It also shows up like unexpectedly, like, oh, I didn't think that this would happen after our work together, but I'm so glad that I did. I didn't know that I needed this. I thought I needed this one thing, but this is actually what I needed. And so, but by the time that they get there, they're, it's kind of they are kind of like going back and forth, and I'm helping them through the process. But then they start gradually getting to the version of themselves that they needed. And they're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. And so that's how it usually happens.
And interwoven into that is then an appropriate exercise movement plan that sounds really highly tailored, whether it could be anything from cardiovascular running to mindfulness practices to walks to being at the gym to getting out and just dancing your heart out at the end of the day, whatever it may look like. And you had shared that I can't believe how quick our hour has gone. Oh my gosh. There's so much that I could continue to share with you and learn about your practice. But you mentioned something to me in our intake form, the podcast. But I thought it was so fascinating that one of the things that you would love to see in generations coming is a moment of silence, sitting in silence before the day starts. Tell me a little bit about how you arrive to the importance of that and what is that practice and what does it offer you?
Yeah. So I think, silence, it allows you to be present because you get into the day and you're just surrounded by noise. Noise may come from other people's opinions, or just like other people's philosophies. And it gets hard to um, filter through all of that and determine like what you really believe. And so I think starting the day with silence really allows yourself to be grounded and present, and it allows you the ability to start the day with intention so that when you do hear a conflicting idea than what you believe in, you could be like, oh no, like I'm on my path, like this is a path that I'm on, and I'm clear about this path because I have given time to it, I've given space to it, I've thought about it, I've allowed myself to be present with it. And so it really allows you to be anchored. It allows you to be an anchored woman. And stay strong in what you believe in, what you believe to be right, what you believe to be true to who you are. And so you do not conform to what society thinks, because society says a lot of things. Society says a lot of things that we should be, what we shouldn't be. But at the end of the day, we have to understand, who do we want to become and who are we becoming right now? So, like, where are we on the road to becoming? And where do we, and I don't even think it's a destination, right? It's a journey. And so it's just like, where are we on our journey? And does the life that we are living, is it in alignment with that journey that we are embarking on? Like, does everything in my life support this version of this woman right now? And so allowing yourself to have silence allows you to be intentional, to really make sure that you are creating the best life for you. That it does not align with what society says, but it's what you want. And it is something that's going to make you proud. It's something that you can, share with your family. And it allows you to be a role model as well, because it gives other women the courage to be like, oh, okay, well, I love the way that Dr. Siri Chan stepped out on faith, and she decided that she was going to create a podcast in a different way. That gives other women the courage to also follow their path as well.
Yes. I have all these like beautiful thoughts from what you just shared, but I just want to bask in that beautiful series of reflection, really powerful words. I appreciate the passion and clarity you bring to this. If someone's listening and wanted to just take a small step towards partnering in a deeper way with her own health, where would you, and maybe you just talked about it, but where would you tell her to start?
Yes, I would say, I would ask her, um, what type of woman do you want to become? Like, I would start there, because sometimes I realize that the tension that we have is coming from a place of misalignment. So sometimes it's like we want to take better care of ourselves, but we're in a job that is eating our soul away. Yeah, or we may have, friends that are not really supportive in our journey. And so it's understanding, who do we really want to become? Do we want to become, people who really is rallied around support, or a woman who really is able to find passion and purpose within her line of work. So I think starting with, okay, who do you want to become? Because that also helps to identify the tension that can be there, that can be impacting our health and even boundaries. If that can be a form of tension as well, that sometimes it's, that people pleaser tendency to always say yes when they should be saying no. And that could be impacting their health as well, where you're taking on more assignments at work because you keep on saying yes, but then that is taking away the time that you have to engage with your health. And so just asking them what type of woman they want to become, because that is going to help identify the tension that is there. And then we're going to be able to just like peel back the layers and make sure that we are walking in a place of alignment with how we want to interact with our bodies and our health.
It's so beautiful. I really appreciate that. And I think that in that is sort of saying yes to ourself too. I bet in your inventories, I see this in my work. We don't always say yes to ourselves, even though we know the value of saying yes to ourselves is tenfold. Like you've explained, when we really honor the path that we're wanting to walk into, the benefits magnify it such a different way than when we stay stuck in something that's really sort of saying no to ourselves. Like, well, I'll just stay in this stuck place because I don't know how to get out of a stuck place. And I think that that's really what your work is so beautifully helping women to say, I you don't have to stay there. Who do you want to become? Who are you? And what is your unique contribution and mission? And how do we get you alive and joyful and energized in that work? And that is precisely the message of this time. I feel like we need to amplify anyone whose work centers around giving people a separate distinction from all the brokenness, all the oppression, to spaces where they're saying, maybe it's a micro yes initially,
Yeah.
but over time it's a macro yes. It's the big yes. It's the I'm stepping out of a system that's oppressing me and I'm stepping into something that's taking crazy amounts of courage and I'm riddled with fear, which feels very normal, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I love how you embody that and how you've shared that in our time together. I'm curious if you could just share with us the states that you're licensed in so that the listeners who are available can consider that process. How do we find you and continue learning from your wisdom? Maybe even opportunities for people that are not in the regions where you're able to see them.
Yes. To connect with me, I am on Instagram. So I'm there at Dr. Janeeka Benoit underscore DO. So that's DR Janeeka Benoit underscore DO. Um, you can if you're in one of the states, so the states that I'm licensed in, I'm in Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Indiana, West Virginia, um, Kentucky, Ohio, Wisconsin. If you're in any of those states, feel free to schedule a consultation call with me, and you can find the consultation call link at www.invesselhealth.com. InVessel is INVESSEL health.com. And I'll be more than happy to talk to you. And then even if you're not in any of those states, then you still feel free to reach out. There could be another capacity that we can work together.
Oh, that's so amazing. And we'll have those links in our show notes. And I want to give you an opportunity here just to close out if there's anything in particular that's in your heart or that's come through in our conversation that you'd like to just create some closure to.
Yeah, I think I would love to tell women that they are more than what they've recognized them to be. 'Cause I see it all the time. I see it, with my patients, in my practice. They come in one way, and then, through our times together, they're like this different being. And so there is more to you, that is to be explored. And I, challenge you to really, take that up, to really get curious of what else can be explored to who you are, as a human being, as a woman, in all the different roles that you hold. There is so much more to you, and it's important to stay curious, just like a child. Like a child is very curious about what is going on. I would encourage you to stay curious about you, yourself, your body, your health, to find out what else is there to be explored so that you can to get to a place where you can have sustainability and optimal health.
It's incredible. I've so appreciated our time together in your busy schedule. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me this week on Roots of Healing with Dr. Janeeka Benoit. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, take care and tune in next time. Bye bye.